Everybody, welcome in today to A Glitch in the Matrix. I'm your host, Jessica Jones, and I have a fantastic show for us today. I have my buddy, my pal, Dennis Carroll, here in the studio with us today, and we're going to be talking about something that is so cool that we have not discussed much here at the Cryptid Huntress channel before, and it doesn't necessarily involve cryptids today. It involves magic mirrors. And so this is going to be quite fantastic. I've recently been looking into black mirror technology and black mirrors and the use of mirrors from pretty much since the beginning of time almost. I tell y'all what, even with Nostradamus, okay, and maybe it's just the beginning of written history, okay, using mirrors for scrying purposes and things like that. Now, were these mirrors just things to look at our reflection in? Or was there something more? Is there some sort of hidden technology that has been left out of our history books that was associated with some of these mirrors? We're going to get into all that today. Get your popcorn ready. I know it's the middle of the day in most places, but y'all buckle in. We're going to go in for a wild ride again at the Cryptid Huntress channel here. All right, if you guys would like to follow along with what I'm doing, please go to my website. That's the cryptidhuntress.com. You can find all of my shows there, all of the events that I'm going to be at, which are, I don't think I have any more this year, where I'm going to be out publicly. But yeah, you guys go check all that out there at thecryptidhuntress.com, where you can find all of my social media links. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel here at, I was about to say Spaced Out Radio, and on YouTube, please do that. I would love to have you guys here. Please subscribe, like the videos, share them out. And also, if you're watching me on Rumble, please, follow me on Rumble as well. I do have a channel there. And I'm also a weekend host at Spaced Out Radio, y'all. So go to Spaced Out Radio every Saturday and Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. And you'll see my show, Off the Trails, there. It's just an amazing channel. So you guys go subscribe. Okay. If you'd like to support what I'm doing, I have a Patreon. That's the Cryptid Huntress on Patreon. And I have a shop called War Woman Goods. All right, y'all. That's all the business. We got that out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to read a little overview about what we're going to be talking about today, and then I'm going to introduce my co-host for the day. Okay, since the ancient times, mirrors have been used to predict the future and as tools for contacting the spirit world during religious and rites and rituals. They're often connected to magic and mysticism. Many thought the reflection inside a mirror represented a portal to spiritual realms. Some say mirrors can reveal hidden images and even connect us to deities. Some ancient cultures buried mirrors with their dead and believed mirrors could show glimpses of the future, while other cultures claim mirrors protect them from spiritual warfare and ward off evil spirits. What if mirrors were used in the distant past for something beyond what we've been told is possible? What if they were actually used as a form of ancient technology of some sort? Well, to help me talk about this today and discuss this, I have my buddy, Dennis Carroll, here. Dennis has over 40 years of experience in the field of the paranormal. He studied, researched, and investigated many aspects pertaining to the paranormal and the supernatural with many personal paranormal experiences. He also is a researcher and investigator of the occult and the supernatural. He's a well-known authority on folklore, legends, and superstitions, cryptozoology, and the occult. He is a published freelance author and writer who's written several books, and he performs lectures and presentations on culture, folklore, myths, and legends. You guys can find him on his YouTube channel, Hunting the Shadows. So please help me welcome to A Glitch in the Matrix today, Dr. Dennis Carroll. Hi,
Good
Dennis.
afternoon, Jessica. How you doing? It's just like gonna
Hey,
be a
I'm
very
doing.
very interesting subject we have today.
It is. It's a little different than what I'm used to talking about. We cover a lot of cryptids here on our channel, and but I think it's very relevant that we talk about something like mirrors and magic mirrors because magic mirrors can be portals, and they've been looked at as portals for a long time. And I do believe that there's a possibility that cryptids and portals are related in some way.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I have noted on several cryptid hunts and some of my own cases that I've had that there have been some distinct telltale signs of some type of a portal activity going on with some of these things. And I think portals are a true part of our reality, whether we encounter them naturally or whether, like, through mirrors and things like that, we manipulate them. There's also a lot of supposed the magic rituals that can open portals and do activity like that as well. So it's a fascinating thing to think about. And as I mentioned earlier, mankind has a love-hate relationship with mirrors. They have a lot of dark superstitions and legends and lore that surround mirrors. It's very interesting. So
It is. Well, I mentioned in the intro that Nostradamus actually used mirrors for something called scrying, and he had what
mhm.
was called a magic mirror. And I do believe I have a picture for the people, the audience who are watching today, of what he considered to be a magic mirror.
Well,
Uh,
scrying, Jessica, goes back to the ancient Egyptians. I mean, that's how far back it goes. Probably to the Mesopotamians and the Sumerians got it. That's who they probably got it from. It is a very ancient fortune telling type of a device that has been used. Also, they use what we call, what for better lack of a term, water mirrors, which are very shallow, reflective pans that you would fill with water, and you would look at these. Nostradamus supposedly used one of these to see a lot of his visions in. And so, if you look at it that way, Nostradamus was sort of time traveling by scrying. And there's a lot of talk and a lot of stories that are connected to time traveling or looking through time. You may not actually be moving through time, but you're kind of peering through time. That's a very interesting concept when you think about it as well.
it is. Well, I have covered on my show here Project Looking Glass and other special
Mhm.
secret black projects that are allegedly part of our government here in the United States. Project Looking Glass, Project Pegasus. Okay, things where they involve time travel, they involve looking into the future and into the past. Also, we have something that I've heard exists at the Vatican down in the basement called the chronovisor, where you can
Mhm.
actually see into the future and in the past. Now, that sounds like scrying in a way, or some sort of future telling device, I guess you could say.
Scrying, so sort of a scrying instrument, you might say, in that respect. Yeah, definitely. And but look at the old Walt Disney story. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? She was actually looking through and communicating with her mirror in that respect. Look at Alice through the looking glass. That's another very famous allusion to the mirrors. What's going on with mirrors? What's so interesting about them? Not only show. Here's the thing about it: the psychological, the parapsychological part of it, and the fact is that mirrors show us a reflection of our reality. They show a reflection of what's around us. I have heard many thousands of ghost stories connected with mirrors. Look at Bloody Mary, very famous legend that's connected with that, or actually seeing in the ghost in the mirrors behind you. It's a reflection of our reality, and that's what makes it so profound. That reality is not set in stone. It can be manipulated
It
by other
can.
outside forces, and that's where scrying comes in. you see this, you can see the actual manipulation taking place by actually peering through time. We're seeing future events like Nostradamus supposedly did. That's a very fascinating thing when you think about it, because you're expanding your consciousness through this mirror, through this device. And like I said, you could use it, back in ancient times, Jessica, when you did fortune telling the old fashioned way, you cast the bones and feathers and see how they would fall on the ground. That supposedly would tell you what future events would be. But when mankind began to, have a little more technology, one of the very first technological advancements was the mirror. That's how long it's been with us, down through the ages. So definitely, we're going to have a lot of stuff attached to it in that respect. Let me tell you about this. And one of the most interesting cases I have had, one of the worst hauntings I ever had, and I won't go deep into it today, but it had to do with a satanic ritual that took place in front of crossed mirrors. I'm going to talk about crossed mirrors here for a moment. This individual actually committed suicide during this thing. This was a very bad demonic haunting. But when they supposedly cross mirrors, that's how mirrors facing each other. If you ever do that, you can look through. It looks like looking through a portal into infinity, because it actually goes on forever. This is a perfect way, supposedly, to open a portal to other dimensions. I often tell people in your house, it's not a good idea to ever cross mirrors, because kind of weird, freaky things happen when you do that.
Oh, Dennis, that's interesting you say that, because mirrors can be a little bit creepy sometimes, and you see videos where things just don't really add up, and it could be CGI, but someone stands in the mirror looking one way, and then it's like their backs are turned to them. And I do think a lot of that CGI, but who's to say that hasn't happened before? Now, there's something called a psychomantium, and I believe there was a movie. I think it had Heath Ledger in it that I watched a long time ago. But it's called a psychomantium, and it's a room that you sit in, and you're surrounded by mirrors, and you light a candle, and spirits start showing up. Now, I mean, I can't imagine those would always be good spirits. I think they'd be demonic
No,
sometimes.
there have been modern day experiments with that, Jessica. By the way, in a dark rooms with just a candlelight and mirrors, sounded like the Bloody Mary thing. That's how you supposedly call Bloody Mary up. Actually, if you look at it the correct way, when you do the Bloody Mary ritual, you're actually summoning a demon. Okay, in that respect, yeah, that's what you're really doing. So it's kind of a ritual. And when you go back to the ancient Greeks, who had a temple dedicated to this kind of stuff, that's what they did. They had rituals combined with these mirrors and all that. Supposedly, they did all these magical stuff with, or they could also see the future, supposedly, in that respect as well. So you've got a ritual thing along with this, but you got to have the atmosphere right. It's got to be dark, got to have a single candle. The shadows, there's shadow play on the mirror itself. Now, a true scrying mirror is usually a blacked out mirror. It's completely blacked out. You can't see, you can see reflections, but it's very, very dark, reflection. Well, as I said earlier, we all have one of those or more than one in our houses, because those are blank black TV screens or computer monitors, can be scrying mirrors. I have had many cases of people supposedly seeing spirits and things in these reflections of these black screens. Some weird stuff goes on with that. Is that sort of another opening for a portal or some sort?
Mhm. I think so, Dennis. Yeah,
You have to
I
wonder,
think that
you know.
I've actually been told that our TV screens are portals, and I know people who have actually claimed to have seen entities come out of the television screens. And so, what better way to get these portals into everybody's homes than by giving them cheap TVs on Christmas on those Black Friday sales? I mean, everybody has a TV in just about every room of their house. Not everybody, but a lot of people do. I don't have one in my room. Okay. But not to say everybody else, a lot of like kids, everybody. There's a TV in just about every room of a lot of people's homes.
Yeah, there's an old superstition too that when someone died in the house years ago, they covered all the mirrors because they were afraid that the souls, the spirit, would get trapped in the mirror. Like I said, that people have known this from ancient times that the mirrors, yeah, just like that, the mirrors are actual reflections, supposedly, of other dimensions or perhaps other realities that may look like ours but are different. You've seen that very famous picture of the girl standing in front of the mirror with looking out, and then her reflections turned the other way. You know, you see a different reality supposedly when you look deep into the mirror. There are many superstitions connected with mirrors. Of course, the most famous one is you don't break a mirror, you get bad luck. 7 years bad luck. And the only way to erase that bad luck, by the way, was to take the slivers of the mirror and wash it away in a flowing stream at midnight or something like that. That would bring your luck back. But I think the reason why they were such bad luck is mirrors were very, very expensive items. They were like big screen TVs would be nowadays. You want to be very careful with it because it costs a lot of money. And of course, here's an interesting thing to think about. The original mirrors actually had real silver backings and not mercury like they do now, supposedly. I think there may be a different process now for making mirrors, but the older mirrors had mercury as a backing, but the original ones had silver, and silver is considered a very spiritual metal, by the way.
Oh yeah. Well, we
Yeah.
have silver bullets that kill werewolves and vampires, right?
Yeah. That's the territory on that, definitely. And here's another interesting thing, and I've seen this my own self has happened. The demonic hates mirrors. They absolutely hate mirrors. And there's an old superstition that if you put small mirrors in the windows of your house facing out, that will keep the evil spirits away. Because supposedly they hate mirrors. And it's not the fact that, like vampires, they suppose they can't see themselves. They can see themselves, but they don't want to see what they truly look like because the mirror, mirrors don't lie sometimes. They tell you exactly what the reality is, and they don't
Tell me
want to
about
see
it.
what they truly look like. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way it goes with me. But they don't want to see what they look like. Here's one more superstition. If you think that you're supposing that somebody is possessed by an evil spirit, you're supposed to go in their room while they're asleep at midnight and hold the mirror up to their face. You will see their true reflection. Is it a demon or a person that resides in that body? So the mirror has a very, very many different connotations to it. Definitely. A lot of connections.
Okay. That's funny. Pancho, you must be watching me from work. Okay. I see you. Okay, Dennis. Okay, so I have been informed that there's a way that people can do black magic on people. And if you feel like you're getting attacked, there's something called mirror magic that some people do. Is a form of black magic, I guess. And so they'll advise people to cover their mirrors, especially at night while they're
Mhm.
sleeping, so that nothing can get inside your home or get to you. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I've heard a lot. There are several supposedly curses that can be transferred through mirrors. That you can also like take the image of a person and hold it up to the mirror, and there's some type of a spell casting thing they do with that as well. There's several supposedly spells or curses that can be accomplished through mirrors. And there's that crossing of mirrors again that I mentioned earlier. That sort of opens a portal up for them to be able to send a spell or a curse or hex, whatever name you want to give it, better and faster onto the image that you want. So you can use definitely look at the evil queen in the Snow White
Snow
thing.
White.
Okay, she used the mirror to spy on her. Okay, she used the mirror to see what she was doing. And if you
Mm,
look at a lot of that, she uses the mirror to change her appearance, so it can be used as shape shifting thing as well.
that's right. That's right. There's something that I wanted to point out before we move on from the Snow White evil queen part of that movie, that cartoon. The evil queen actually used to say, I don't know if you remember this, Dennis, but this is a Mandela effect now. And I went and watched it and looked it up. She used to say, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" And guess what she says now, Dennis?
Mhm.
It's magic
Mhm.
mirror
Yep.
on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? It's not mirror, mirror
Uh,
anymore. And I
yes,
remember it
magic
mirror,
mirror.
mirror. Yeah, I don't remember that.
See, supposedly, witches' mirrors are a different story altogether. They're supposedly imbued with dark power to do things. I think this is even alluded to the crystal ball in The Wizard of Oz. Remember that, where the Wicked
Yes.
Witch could manipulate images in the crystal ball. And a crystal ball is nothing but a round mirror if you look at it the right way. That's what it basically is. It's a sphere. It's a spherotic mirror instead of a flat mirror. If you look at it that way, Jessica, there's a distinct connection between mirrors and crystals in that respect. And we do know that crystals supposedly can channel powers, magic powers, and stuff as well.
That's right. That's right. Well, you had mentioned earlier that you have a story about witchcraft and mirrors. And I believe it has something to do with Satanism as well. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, well, the interesting thing about that is that uh, witchcraft, Satanism, and all that are connected. Let me say this: witchcraft's not a religion. Okay, witchcraft is a profession. Okay, there's certain ways you do things in it. But that case that I had, which was very bad one, very bad haunting that came out of that. This guy and I, what I could ascertain, he invoked a demon through these crossing of mirrors, sort of bringing it forth from another dimension into where he was. I think this action may have precipitated in his own destruction by him doing that very thing. But that demonic entity was still there. And here's the bad part: some of his relatives came in, wanted to hide what was going on. They tried to clean the whole place up, hide the
Hmm.
paraphernalia and all that stuff. But what happened, unfortunately, Jessica, this demonic entity attached to them and followed them home. And their home life became a living hell after that. And that's when they called me in. But when I found out what happened, I mean, it was like a big bell going off, Hey, that was the perfect setup for something like that. But I found it very interesting that the main instrumentation of all this was a mirror.
Yeah. Well, mirrors can be a gateway. Okay. Now this is kind of on another. It's about mirrors, but it pertains to another. I'm going to say community. Okay, so I do shows, and I am friends with some of the guys who and ladies who've been part of the secret space program. And they have told me stories about mirrors being portals. A matter of fact, my friend Arkeem Raw, he's been on the show. Uh, he he was telling me, and he posted some videos actually about a mirror in a hotel room he was staying at. And he said, he like, I don't know if he covers the mirrors or he does something to try to prevent it, but he believes that the mirrors are able to be used as portals. I mean, for people that are taking, like, kidnapping people and stuff, and
There,
maybe even
there's
ETs
supposedly,
utilizing.
Jessica, supposedly some scientific research done on the fact of teleportation using mirrors and
Yes.
holographic mirrors and stuff like that. So that's what you're talking about there. Definitely, that would be really freaky to think that I could teleport into your house through your mirror. Think about
Okay.
that. That's bad. That's sort of like an open door in your house. Uh, that
Yeah.
would be, though, if you think about it, that would be the perfect way to teleport something. Using mirrors in that respect, because there again, the mirror supposedly is a symbol of transcendation of dimensions and time and all this other thing. That would be the perfect thing to use teleportation for. Definitely would be a mirror. And here's one other thing about the mirror that you got to think about, and that's the fact that if it is a doorway, then it is sort of like a wormhole in space. We know wormholes exist. So instead of having like maybe drive 50 miles through your house, I step through portal A to portal B, and there I am, right there, instantaneously.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect way to travel. No wonder science is looking at stuff like that. You wouldn't need rocket ships. You wouldn't need anything like that. You wouldn't even need a protected device. You could be from point A to point B instantaneously. And let me say this, it is a known fact by theologians that is the definite form of spiritual travel. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen these things do that from point A to point B that quickly. Yes, it is a reality. It is something that can really happen.
It is. Okay. That's terrifying. Because you think about people that are getting abducted from aliens, like alien abductions happening in their home. How are they getting in their homes? What if they're using mirrors in people's houses? Wouldn't that be something? Just saying.
Well, there may be technology, Jessica, to observe you and watch you through your TV without you knowing it.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Definitely, that's a reality. I think that can be done. They can listen to you. Definitely, they can. And I know this, being in law enforcement, they have the capacity to actually open the line of your telephone and listen to you in your house without it being taken off the cradle. So
Yes,
if they can
very
do that, what can they do with your TV? And the TV, like we said earlier, is another form of a mirror, is it not?
It is. It is. Okay, so I have a couple of Instagram accounts that I follow. I'm not on social media a ton. I mean, I do go there to post stuff for my shows, but I ain't got no time to be scrolling through social media, y'all. But I do have a couple of accounts that I follow, and I love. There's one called the Improbable Dreamer, and he's on Instagram, and he puts out some of the most fantastic research on old world technology and old world fairs and the cover up that we've had allegedly, and I believe it, but a potential cover up of a lot of the technology that we used to have, that humans had back, I mean, 100 years ago. Some of it seems more advanced than even what we have today, or what we've been told. And so he had posted something about the black mirrors. Okay, and for everybody in the audience, you might be familiar with black mirrors from that Netflix show. Okay, it's called Black Mirror, and it's all about like a dystopian, like AI takeover of humanity. Okay, and that is something that Dennis, you and I have even talked about with AI cloning and things like that, and that's kind of what that show's about. However, if you look into black mirrors, okay, black mirror technology could equal portal technology. Okay, and it's really super duper interesting that the Improbable Dreamer had put up a post about a week or two ago, and it was when you and I had just talked about. I think it was us. We had just talked about mirrors and Snow White. Maybe we had talked about magic mirrors briefly one day, Dennis, and so I saw that video, and it made me think. It made me start doing research into all this. And there are paintings which he actually shows some of these same ones on his posts, and so I want to give him credit, y'all. But of these black mirrors that they're located on maps from the old world. It kind of has something to do with potentially like Nostradamus's scrying that he's doing. But there's a whole lot of these pictures, and it looks like they are people being represented holding mirrors to other worlds. They're not seeing their reflection in these mirrors. They're seeing other places in all of these mirrors. Now, could these be stargates? Could they be a looking glass, like a chronovisor technology? I mean, what's going on here, Dennis? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, there is some telltale signs in folklore and history that there may have been something definitely going on with the mirrors, that they would actually see locations that they had no true knowledge of knowing, peoples, and interact with peoples that they were not, thousands of miles apart. They were not capable of talking to. Could it have been that they were using some type of a scrying method to see these things in far off lands and all that, not just the future or the past, but also the present? That would be a form of travel, would it not? Spiritual travel, you might say, in that respect. That would be another part of the mirror connection, definitely. There's been a lot of talk about that in folklore, especially with a lot of these paintings showing the black mirrors and all that, the sculptures and all that. Why was that so significant? That it had to be mentioned. So evidently they knew more about it than we know in that respect. That's the bad thing about history, Jessica. So much that we have lost, so much knowledge that these ancient peoples had that we don't, that we've lost over time. And it could be scrying was a big part of that we just don't know about. I think about in our modern times. Look at the Stargate. That was like a big mirror, like a big scrying mirror. The Stargate, that you stepped through and went somewhere else. Where do they get these concepts at? Where do they think about it? Well, they definitely go back to history about that. Supposedly, I mentioned earlier, Alice through the Looking Glass. She actually went through the Looking Glass. She teleported to Wonderland. Okay, that's an interesting thing to think about. Where did Lewis Carroll get that idea at?
That's a great question. And okay, so in regards to this being covered up or not talked about, people are vilified for being witches whenever they do things like fortune telling and tarot cards and any kind of divination. I mean, I have a crystal ball right here behind me. I don't know if y'all noticed. I have a crystal ball. Your girl's got a crystal ball, y'all. Okay. And I love doing divination. It's part of who I am. It was part of my healing process back when I really needed it. And just tuning into my spirituality. And a lot of people like myself are labeled as witches and really ostracized, or have been throughout the years. Maybe it's not so bad now, although I have experienced it. Okay. But it's
Jessica, the thing about it, H.P. Lovecraft said the greatest fear of all is the fear of the unknown. When people don't understand something, they will either turn away from it or they vilify it. They make it to be something evil or bad because they don't understand it. That's just the way humanity works. And look at how many people were burned for being witches that probably weren't. Very innocent people, mainly because I think some people wanted to get their land and their goods. But that's the excuses people use for them. They don't understand it. They vilify it. They say, it's bad, leave it alone, and all that. That unfortunately impedes our access to knowledge when we do stuff like that. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't write something off the ticket so quickly. But unfortunately, that happens.
It does, but it's a way to suppress I wanted to say that suppress the technology. I don't know if you'd consider divination technology, but it's a way to suppress being able to see into the future. It's like, you're bad. Now, I think it might be a religious construct type of a thing. It's a part of keeping people under control. Okay. No offense. Listen, I grew up in the church. Okay. But it's just, we're just having an open thoughts, open conversation today, everybody. Okay. But it's a form of control by vilifying people who do things like this so that they don't do it. But however, the Vatican has a chronovisor allegedly down in the basement, right, Dennis?
God. Yeah, that's supposed to be an ancient actual thing that comes back from medieval times, supposedly before medieval times. Also, there's one very similar to that, supposedly that was being experimented on by Alexander Graham Bell, that could pick up actual radio waves that still exist of sounds from history out there. That's supposed to be like the chronograph too thing. There's supposed to be actual, it's really sort of like a camera obscura. I don't know if you're familiar with that term. A camera obscura supposedly could see things that the human eye could not. And like I said earlier, the mirror doesn't lie and the camera doesn't lie usually, although it can be manipulated, of course. We're very good at doing that nowadays with AI and all this other stuff. But the chronograph is that way, and that aspect of it is that it was being able to see through history. They supposedly have taken snapshots of Christ, I think on the shore of Galilee, some of the apostles, I think Julius Caesar, and all that. But here's the interesting aspect of all that. How did they find, of all the people in the world at that time, how could you zoom in and take a photograph of the one person you're looking for? You know, that had to be a very, very interesting feat to do.
Yeah,
But
I thought of that too.
yeah, but you know, that's kind of like very much like AI that you and I have talked about a lot in the past. We tend to vilify it because it has the ability to turn into something very badly. But AI would be a wonderful thing if it is used correctly. And I think that's what happens with a government. We talk about government experimentation on stuff. When the government gets something, they have usually only one thing in mind: to weaponize it. And in order to do that, you've got to do bad things with it. That's the way that works. But if it came to scrying, actually, if they actually have something like the chronographs you talked about, or even these ancient mirrors and all that, they would definitely use it to spy on people. It would not be used in a good way. It would not be used to communicate or find out ancient knowledge or anything. It would be used mainly to spy on people and for very nefarious purposes. Um, that's the government, you know. And if they have a hand in something like this, it should worry us a little bit. I think we should be a little worried.
It is, but we're too busy on our phones to pay attention, which our phones are probably watching us too. Oh, they are watching us, I'm sure. So you can't win out here in these streets. Long Island Bigfoot, thank you for that super sticker. That's so sweet. You guys go check out Long Island Bigfoot on YouTube, please, and go subscribe over there to Mike. He's a great guy. Okay. Yeah, this is a very interesting subject, and if we get into, you know, of course, if the government has access to this type of stuff, I mean, I've like I said, we got all these different projects, black projects that are going on with the secret space program and beyond, with the Montauk project, and I mean, there's a long list where they're using this technology to change our timelines, to change the outcome of wars potentially, and to place objects back into the past from our future to change the course of history as well. I mean, where does this ever end, Dennis?
Well, they look at the use by the government of remote viewers in the past.
Oops,
Okay.
I know one of those.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's just one thing they're using. So, like I say, I don't put it past them in that respect. But it just came out the other day, Jessica, about a program that AT&T has been involved with that is actually recording every single one of our cell phone calls. Think about that. I mean, why are we so interesting? I mean,
Well,
unfortunately, we must be.
Well, you know, honestly, if you go back, and I did mention that show on Netflix, it's called Black Mirror, and I only watched one episode. It was the one with the robot dogs. That was terrifying. And lo and behold, now we got all these robot dogs everywhere, helping police forces, going into situations with cameras and loaded to the T with weaponry and all that stuff, coming to a town near you, everyone. But yeah, it's so speaking of Black Mirror, okay, so this, I don't know. I guess that was almost like a soft disclosure, if you want to call it soft disclosure, of what our first of all, our government's actually doing. But like combining this Black Mirror technology that may or may not exist. I mean, I know that I have remote view. Speaking of remote viewers, I've remote viewed portals, Earth's natural portals, Earth's natural weaponized portals, where it was a target that I had one time that Barry gave me. This is a blind target. I ended up on the moon. I felt like I was getting sucked through a wormhole to the, not the moon, excuse me, the sun. I was on the sun. Came out of the sun like a portal on the sun. But I was remote viewing Earth's weaponized portals. Okay. So I got so much data out of that and similar targets. These portals are real. And I think that it's like they're putting out the word Black Mirror and attaching it to something that's so like almost dystopian or something, but it's actually happening. Okay. They have to, the controllers, I guess you could say, like have to kind of tell us what they're doing as they're doing it or before they do it to us. And that's like transferring consciousness from all this information that they're getting, let's just say, from all of our phone conversations, all the calls that we're making, our social media and stuff, and they're compiling all of that. So who's to say they're not using that to make clones of us with our, it's like they're bottling up our consciousness with like our ways that we are and the things that we do and the people we're friends with and what every aspect of our lives. I don't know. I feel like I'm talking in circles about all this because it's so overwhelming. The enormity of what's going on right now and all the consciousness, like us being humans. It's like our humanity is going to be taken away from all of this by AI. And they're kind of encapsulating all that in that show, Black Mirror.
Well, you know, too, when I think about the Black Mirrors, I think about the Black Sun. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, the Black Sun, which is, I'm talking about the sun in the sky. The Black Sun is sort of an occultic reference. I think it has a connection to Black Mirrors in that way. But we've got to remember the basic precept of these mirrors in witchcraft, black magic, whatever name you want to give that, is the fact that it channels the consciousness. Okay? It channels the consciousness. And anytime you do that, then you have the ability to probably pass through a portal. Okay, because in order to go through a portal, you're going to have to become energy. Okay, you're going to have to become a form of energy, a frequency, and vibration. Okay, those are the main things. The three things to think about: energy, frequency, and vibration. And in order to utilize that as a portal, that's the way. And I would see the perfect conduit for that would be a mirror. When you think about that, you know, and if it channels the consciousness, what would follow that would be your spiritual energy, your makeup, your soul, or whatever name you want to give it, would pass through that portal through that way. That would be a perfect conduit. No wonder they would be experimenting with Black Mirrors. That would be the perfect way to open portals. Mm-hmm.
It would be. And I know I'm a little behind on the comments, y'all. I'm skipping from the newer ones to some that I was catching up with. And this is Trey Hudson in the chat. Trey's the head of my team, Anomalous Studies and Observation Group with the Meadow Project. Hey, Trey, thanks for being here. He says, lest we forget Soviet experiments using the Kozarev mirror. Or Kozarev. Is that how you pronounce that, Dennis? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I think so. Kozarev. Okay. I'm not that good at Russian either, but anyway, that is an interesting experiment. Definitely, it has some very strange aspects to it. I would advise people to do some research on that. It's very interesting, but and it had some mind effects, very interesting mind effects that it had with the people that were doing these things. That was the interesting part of it, definitely.
Okay,
strange stuff. Weird stuff. Yeah.
So that just says our governments, not the U.S. government, but the Russian government was using experimentation with mirrors and things like that. I mean, our government here in the United States has been known to study things like demonology. That's something you and I have discussed before. So they're obviously studying all these things for a reason.
Mhm.
What are those reasons, Dennis?
Well, in the old ancient medieval demonology, not the kind I talk about usually, but the raising of demons. That's what the original demonology stuff was. That's what all the books, the Necronomicon, and all that was supposedly be about. Um, the interesting thing about that was that you used in many aspects of these ceremonies, you used a pan of water, which would be very much like a reflective mirror. It would be black water and it would be black, okay? Very much like a scrying mirror. You use that in many aspects, usually in the center of a pentagram thing that you would draw out. This was supposedly bring forth the demon and allow them to rise up out of this blackness. The blackness is what it is. It's sort of that portal thing again. Okay, that's what you're basically utilizing that as. And what is also water is a very conductive thing. Okay, water is very powerful in that respect, and water has a very distinct connection to the spiritual. Look at baptism and stuff like that. Water is a very direct connection spiritually as well. So a lot of that was used in demonology to raise demons and stuff as well.
Yeah. Um, wow. Okay, what is the actual process of scrying, Dennis? Do you know? Do you just put like a bowl out with do you put crystals in it? Do you stir it up? I mean, and just faces come through or what? Do you have to just be like
Well,
connected
uh,
psychically to that or how does that work?
well, like I said earlier, and I don't want to give too many people ideas out there. They might do some bad stuff, but
Okay.
like I said earlier, it is using you to channel your consciousness. Okay, and when you're staring at the mirror, and like you have to would do it definitely in a dark room with a single candle, you stare into this mirror and you blank your mind and you allow visions, you allow the pictures to enter into this. These visions enter into the mirror itself, and you see what you want to see. But you're directing, you're channeling your consciousness into this dark glass to see these things. And it is sort of, if you look at it this way, it is sort of a reflection of the surface of your consciousness. Okay. And that's the
Okay.
connection going on there. It's very heavy duty spiritual stuff here, okay? Very, very distinct mind stuff going on here. And the reason I caution against it is because it is the correct way for outside influences to get a hold of you if you're not careful. This is very dangerous stuff to do. That's why I caution people out there listening to us today, don't play around with this. It's something that can be very detrimental to you if you're not very careful because you are opening doorways with this, just like with a Ouija board or whatever the situation may be. It's the same precept that's going on here. So be very, very careful with this kind of stuff.
Okay.
It is heavy duty, heavy duty.
Yes. I 100% agree with that. Now, someone in the chat, let me see if I can find it. Marshall. Marshall said Marshall has a mirror that came from an old hotel and it freaks me out walking by it, seeing things out of the corner of my eye. Now, this is interesting, Dennis, because it makes me wonder, do mirrors hold energy like quartz or something does? Because some mirrors can be made out of crystals or or whatever they're made out of, whatever metals are holding. Could it be something kind of like what do they call it, the stone tape theory, that we deal with out in the field when we're doing our field research, like on a haunted battlefield, for instance? Okay, there's something that's playing over and over again. Okay, like a residual energy. Is there residual energy in mirrors, you think?
Oh, no, definitely. There are many cases of haunted mirrors. I know of one very famous one at Myrtle's Plantation is supposed to be haunted. A friend of mine has a story called Strange Fate about a mirror or actually the ghost of the little girl that inspired Alice in Wonderland. Her ghost is actually seen in this mirror from time to time. And the mirror is the one that inspired Lewis Carroll to write about Alice through the Looking Glass. Um, Yeah, there's a lot of cases of haunted mirrors, and that's why, as we said earlier, about covering the mirrors around people that die, because they knew that spirits supposedly could get trapped in these mirrors. And it's almost like you said, like a film. It's running over and over and over again. A lot of times, residual hauntings can be attached to objects, especially to objects like mirrors, and objects with reflective things like even glass. I've had several cases of cabinets with glass in them, where people see faces and stuff in the glasses of cabinets, not mirrors, but the glass itself. And a very famous thing about that was the story of Flight 401, the ghost on the airplane, on the jets, that their ghosts were seen in the reflection of the glass oven doors on that plane.
Oh my gosh. Well, that makes me question any mirror that I've bought from an antique store or a thrift shop.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh-oh.
it makes you wonder, and that's, I mean, that's with like any kind of object that you buy at a thrift store or an antique store. And I love antiques. I love the history behind it. I love the craftsmanship. My mother's house is filled with antiques. My grandparents' houses were filled with antiques, and I own some of those antiques today. But it makes you wonder. It's okay if it's like passed throughout your family and passed down, but when you go into a place and you purchase a beautiful piece of furniture, a beautiful mirror, you just don't know exactly what that mirror has seen and been through. It might have absorbed the energy of somebody that was really terrible and really mean. And what if you were to bring that into your home and you've got that person's energy in your house? So is there any way to get that energy off of these pieces before you bring them home?
Definitely. I've had many, many cases of haunted objects causing a lot of trouble. And here's something a philosopher once said is very true. The past never dies. It is always with us in one form or another, whether it's in our memories or in other things. And we got to remember that the past can be a real thing. It's not gone forever. It can remain like a memory. And I've said a lot of times, a lot of these haunted locations as if a memory is imprinted upon them. And usually it's a bad memory that gets printed because it's very traumatic, very painful, very evil, or whatever the situation. It seems to imprint a much more vivid memory there, without a doubt. And any objects are no different.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Yeah, well, I'm questioning any of my old purchases. Okay, from they may be going back to Goodwill today. I don't know, especially dolls. What do you think about dolls, Dennis? You think dolls are haunted?
Dolls are very much like mirrors, a reflection of us,
Hmm.
and that's what's so spooky about them.
Hmm.
The clowns are the same way. Clowns are, a lot of people are so frightened of clowns because they're sort of a distorted reflection of us, you know.
Clowns.
And I've often said
Oh
that,
God.
as kids, Jessica, we watched Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, and all that. Those were the monsters, but we grew up to find out that monsters are real. They are us. That's the interesting thing about it.
That's right. That's right. Now, we've had a couple of comments about washing your windows regularly, washing your mirrors, even saging. I think saging is a good thing to do. You can sage your mirrors. What if you feel like you are being haunted by something in your bed? Let's just say in your bedroom at night, you feel like somebody's watching you, scrying. Should we put a blanket over our mirrors while we sleep at night?
No, it wouldn't be a bad idea, especially if something bad or paranormal nature is going on in there. That's one of the first things. I'll tell you what, just in my own experiences, whenever I go into a haunted location, that's the first thing I'll check out are mirrors, because I know they have a distinct connection to the spiritual side of our existence in that respect. Um, Mirrors are freaky in that way, and I tell you what, here's just me, okay? I get kind of uncomfortable after a while around too many mirrors, not because I don't want to see myself, but there's just a freaky kind of a feel to me. I guess because I've had so much, negative experience with mirrors in that respect. But I don't like to be around mirrors too long.
Yeah. Well, now we just have to be aware of what could be trapped inside of a mirror, what could come through a mirror. We're all going to be looking at all this a lot differently after this show today. I know I am. And I was already aware of people attempting to do like black magic. I'm not saying anybody attempted to black magic on me, but I'm sure they do. I know other people out there don't like me. That's fine. But anyways, I have been made aware of that happening. So yeah, anything is sent back tenfold, by the way. Okay.
That's one of the first things when I ask somebody when they come to me with a paranormal problem. I say, "Have you made anybody mad at you lately?"
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't take much. If people want to get you, you know, I can tell you some stories of witchcraft that blow your mind because
Oh,
it
yeah.
is, like I said, it is a profession, and people can use it just like any other profession, and they can use it very badly too, for that matter.
That's right. That's right. Well, what about, I mean, if you don't believe in all this stuff, if you don't believe in black magic, if you don't believe in voodoo, you don't believe in any of this stuff, does it still have an effect on you?
I think it can personally to the fact that a lot of people are egotistically tied to mirrors. How many people have you ever seen can actually walk by a mirror without looking at themselves? Think about it. Okay, we are connected psychologically to mirrors because they are a reflection of us, and I think they become a part of us in that way, and that our vanity is also plays a part in that. Our ego. Um, like I say, you know, the older you get, the less you want to deal with mirrors. That's just the way that goes. But I think they're part of our life, a very distinct part of our life. And whether you believe in the mystical side of it or not, mirrors are with us and they're here and they're going to stay with us, I guess, for a long,
That's
long
right.
time.
They have. And even the ancient Egyptians used mirrors for scrying, I believe. And from what I understand, they used them to they held the secret knowledge of the gods or something like that. So I mean, cultures throughout history have used mirrors as some form of or looked at them in some form of reverence, I guess you could say, for
No,
mystical purposes.
it could also be used as a form of communicating with the gods. Supposedly, that was
Ah,
another thing that took place in the ancient temples and all that. It was another form of communication with their gods, and it was used very much like the Oracle of Delphi. You know, the
ah,
Oracle of Delphi was a woman, by the way. It wasn't the object. She was a lady who sat over the fumes, the vapors of a pit, and she had visions. We think she was probably under the influence of narcotics to a certain extent, but she had
mhm.
visions. And a lot of times, here's the interesting thing, Jessica, she would come out and tell what her vision was. It made no sense, but you had the priest who would interpret it for you. So he could tell you anything he wanted to. That's just the way that went. But the Delphi, was she not sort of a living mirror, a connection to the gods?
Wow. Super interesting. I love that. And I want to thank Long Island Bigfoot for another super sticker. That is so sweet of you. Everybody go subscribe to Long Island Bigfoot, please, over here on YouTube. And yeah, this is all just so fascinating, Dennis. Wow, this hour has completely flown by today. And I'm sure we could talk about this stuff forever. But
Yeah.
until forever comes, what tell everybody, Dennis, about where they can find you. Oh, first of all, do you have any final thoughts on mirrors?
Okay. You can reach me at denniswcarroll.com. That's my website. Or you can email me, denniswcarroll@gmail.com. I have a podcast every Sunday night at 9 o'clock, Demonology Today, with Grizzly Chris. And then Wednesday night, tonight, I'm going to be talking about vampire spirits. You're going to find out something about vampires you never heard before. And that's going to be tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, every Wednesday night with Hunting the Shadows. And then I have a bi-monthly podcast called Paranormal POV, Point of View. And that comes on at Friday nights at 8 o'clock p.m.
Okay, wonderful. Now that's on your channel, Hunting the Shadows, right? the paranormal point of view.
Hunting the Shadows, Hunting the Shadows YouTube channel, I might say. Yeah.
Yes. So y'all go subscribe to Dennis over here. This is, I mean, you have the best information, Dennis, and such wonderful conversations. And I just want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being here with me today. And Candy, I want to thank you too.
Always a pleasure. Always
thank
a pleasure.
you. Oh my gosh. And Candy, thank you for that super sticker. That's so sweet. I appreciate you so much. Thank you to everybody, man. Thank you to everybody who was here today. I hope that you guys learned something new. I totally learned something new today. I always learn something new with Dennis. And I think it's important that we question what we're taught. Okay. And question our history and look into things. You're not going to sound that crazy to people like us. If y'all want to have conversations about it, we're putting this out there. People may think we're crazy. I don't care. I don't care. We're not going to solve the mysteries of this world if we don't question it and put it out there for everybody to discuss. Okay. So y'all do your own research. Y'all do some digging. We might revisit this one day in the future because Dennis, you know, they have smart televisions now. We have smart mirrors now. Okay. Like, I don't know if it's Apple that puts them out or there's certain companies that put out these smart mirrors. And that might just be a reflection of the technology that we had a long time ago back in the old world. I mean, who knows? But hey, until then, you guys, let's continue to do our research. Y'all come back and join me tomorrow night. I have a fantastic remote viewing target. It might involve that werewolf-looking skinwalker thing on the trail cam. So we're going to be looking into that tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And that's going to be here at the Cryptid Huntress channel. And y'all come see me this weekend on Spaced Out Radio. I have my friend Bryce coming on Saturday night with Esoteric Atlanta. And we're going to talk about some really cool topics that night too. So, Dennis, thank you again for being here tonight or today. And let's all go see Dennis. Y'all go see Dennis tonight on his channel. It's Hunting the Shadows tonight, right, Dennis?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we're gonna see you there.
I'll be on tonight at 9. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. All right, y'all. Well, everybody, have a wonderful day. Thanks again for the super chats. Thanks y'all for being here. And I'll see y'all tomorrow night. All right. Bye, Dennis.
Bye-bye.